Over the last 18 months, our personal lives and working lives have changed substantially. And as we prepare for COP26, we can look to some positive environmental trends that have emerged, with examples including lower air pollution, cleaner waterways. While striking, can these changes be sustained as economies emerge from the pandemic and look to recover? At SSE Energy Solutions, we're committed to helping businesses decarbonise on their journey to net zero. And today, I'm joined by experts from across our business: Ching, Senior Smart Project Manager; Eunice Mabey, Energy Optimisation and Platform Operations Director; and Kostas Papadopoulos, Smart Energy Systems Director, who are going to help us navigate what we've learned from energy data before and during the pandemic, and how this informs future opportunities for businesses of all sizes. Eunice, if I could come to you first, looking at business energy usage data before and during the pandemic, what's it telling us?
It's quite interesting, actually, David. We've looked at the consumption of our customers before COVID, so in 2019, and we've compared that to the annual of 2020. So looking at that average, the drop was only 9%. But then if we compare that to the UK-wide drop within that period, it was actually lower at 4%.
Okay, and that's really interesting because we're seeing a marked difference in the type of reductions depending on different sectors. Kostas, can I come to you? What would account for that type of different change or contribution made in different sectors?
Yeah, really, I mean, we have noticed quite a big difference between, as you said, between different sectors. We've seen places like schools and offices, having some significant reductions, but at the same time, we've seen similar places in other parts of the country where reductions were not as dramatic as we would have seen, and sometimes actually there was no reduction at all. And that's because the difference is accounted by the fact that quite often there isn't adequate monitoring or sub-metering or controls, most importantly. That then leads to significant wastage. When people were off during the lockdowns, systems were still in operation because they couldn't be turned off. There was no BMS Bureau service to do that efficiently. And so therefore the easy option was to leave things on.
Okay, so then if we try and translate what that data is telling us into a climate change context, what lessons can we say we learned from the pandemic with regards to climate change?
Yeah, obviously, even though the pandemic brought big parts of the economy almost to a halt, we've noticed that carbon emissions were still dangerously high. I mean, a 9% drop or 10% drop is great, but it's not enough. So I think, we need to seriously now plan for deep retrofits of existing buildings. We've been talking about that for ages. We need to start now very seriously. And also the rollout of more interconnected systems. A good example is private electricity networks utilizing on-site renewable generation and storage or district heating schemes. So yeah, there's lots that we can do.
Okay, and one of the significant changes in the workforce over the period of time was the move to remote working. Eunice, how has that impacted, or what can we take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the different ways of working and technology used. I mean, there's been some great innovation over COVID in the way that customers have had to change to carry on with their business. So actually using these as a springboard to help accelerate the path to net zero, we would absolutely encourage. I think also that the fact that, we all have that part to play. I think that's, a great thing that's come out of the pandemic. The difference that people can make if they all brought together globally. And that's certainly what we have to do as part of climate change. Using some of those basic technologies, we know some of our customers, for instance, that had escalators running in their flagship stores in Oxford Street, and using things like our Clarity platform to show that was still on and still running, to sort of like stop the action from generating wasted energy. We really need to sort of like look at these basic items that can easily get distracted from our day-to-day work, because there's a lot of information in there that we could use to really help drive energy efficiencies and help towards that that journey to net zero for everyone.
Okay, very good. So the more information that companies can compile and then also be able to translate that into something that they can understand in terms of where they're using those different amounts of energy and what they can do to challenge it. And that's going to become really interesting as the economy starts to open back up again. So for us as Energy Solutions, providing all of these different solutions to businesses, as we interact with them, what sort of trends can we see or do we expect to see as businesses start to open back up again? Eunice, maybe we'll stay with you.
We would expect the levels of consumption to increase as people were coming out of lockdown. But interesting, looking at the data that we have, it hasn't increased as before COVID. So we're still making a reduction in energy, which is obviously fantastic. So we do need to carry on with that. But we would actually expect to see businesses utilising the energy savings that they've had and kind of recycling that back into energy efficiencies. So, we talk about smart metering, which is the perfect starting point, but then looking at that data, translating that data, and then enabling energy efficiency investment, which obviously Kostas can cover within his area.
Yeah, Kostas, I presume one of the things in your part of the business, your clients will talk to you about is returning safely to the workplace. What will that mean for businesses?
That's right. I mean, businesses are naturally concerned about safe return to work practices and the impact those will have on the energy bills in particular. For example, there's the government advice to bring in 100% fresh air into a building to make sure that contaminants are taken care of and taken out of the buildings. But this is a very energy intensive process. Large amounts of air need to be moved continuously in and out of the building. That's one example. Another example is the fact that offices or other places of work won't be 100% occupied as they were before. Yet, quite often, lighting is not well controlled. So even if you have 20% of people in a space, 100% of the lights may have to be turned on. So there's a few things that can be tweaked to actually make large savings. And if I may continue in terms of the trends, we are seeing at the moment, not as much as a result of the pandemic, but as a result of the net zero agenda, public sector organizations, in particular in the UK, and also large businesses are very keen to invest in smart local energy systems. So everyone is looking to make the right investment decisions because the amount of time now that everyone has is shrinking. Everyone has 2030 targets or 2040 targets, and these are very, very serious and difficult ones to meet.
And another trend that we're starting to see emerge much more strongly, I'd suggest, over the last number of months is businesses' concerns about where their energy is coming from, where they're sourcing it. And as we move towards COP26 and the importance of the decarbonisation agenda, Tom, what sort of things are our customers talking to us about in terms of wanting to know where the renewables is coming from, where their energy is coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all know that the key trend that's sweeping across the industry now is really trying to understand how can a business move towards net zero? How can they, decarbonize? What are the conscious things that they can really do, tangible things? And of course, for example, with Energy Solutions, we are now really pushing ahead the notion that you can really trace your energy use back to 100% back to green energy from our renewables infrastructure. And that is such a straightforward, key, tangible aspect to put your business in the right shape for decarbonisation.
Okay. And Tom, staying with you in the role that you have within the business, obviously, as we see these trends emerge, we need to align ourselves to supporting business in the period through economic recovery. And one of the aspects that companies will have suffered through is not having their doors closed, debt, and other factors. What can we do to help those businesses?
Absolutely. The key enabler in all of this, and it might just seem like a box on the wall, but it is really smart metering. Smart metering is absolutely the key enabler for several key reasons. It is the tool that can help your business regain control, bring back the notion that you can really understand where you sit in terms of your energy supply. and help you just maintain control over your large portfolio if you have one. It gives you that ability, the enablement, the tools, and the insight to gain control of your energy use and really make a difference as you try and get back onto your feet as a business, particularly in this post-COVID environment. That is a key tool and a key enabler through smart metering, definitely.
So smart metering presents this opportunity for customers to be able to see more clearly what their business is doing on a day-to-day basis in shorter time periods. Eunice, how does smart meter then cross over into your part of the business and that linkage between systems like Clarity and what Tom's smart meters can help the customer see?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously the smart meter feeds that information into our Clarity platform. And from that, you can really understand what you're doing with your energy. So you could go back and look historically. So, we've mentioned, we've looked at the data over COVID, and you can actually see where your wastage is. So are you using energy outside of your operating hours, for instance? Are things still switched on? Or looking at your tariff, could you move things at the time of day that you're operating, which would mean you're working in a cheaper tariff. So there's loads of information that you can gain from a tool like Clarity. And some of the time that's kind of dismissed because we're so busy with our day-to-day work. But we offer this managed service, so we do that heavy lifting for you. So we just deliver those actionable insights so when you're wasting energy, how much you can save, how much carbon that's saving, how is that helping within your journey to net zero, as well as setting up alarms. So, no one has to be watching it 24/7. These alarms will be showing you when wastage occur, and it's all correlated to the weather, as you would expect those alarms to be. And then obviously that can then branch on to remotely controlling your buildings. So when these alerts occur, we're switching things on and off to make sure they're aligned, heating is optimized, and your building is in the right environment, like Kostas was mentioning about air quality, but at the right cost and reducing carbon wherever we possibly can.
Okay. Guys, we've recently just announced and launched our new brand, SSE Energy Solutions. And what that does is bring together our customer-facing activities where we can provide solutions and help customers. So if we talk about COP26, we talk about the climate change agenda, and we talk about customers' genuine desire to want to move towards net zero. Our new energy solutions business, how can we help businesses get back on their feet as we move post-pandemic?
Again, all the great activity and the great initiatives that Kostas and Eunice can bring to a business, it has to start with that smart metering element, and there are broader things around it as well, because the sweeping trend, particularly as we approach COP26, is this fundamental idea behind electrification. And this ability to get your business in shape and ready to take advantage of all the aspects of electrification, be that, moving on to battery storage, EVs, making sure that you're using 100% clean energy. That has to be the first stepping stone for making sure that your business is set up in the right way. And also, by adopting the notion of smart metering and allowing, for example, Energy Solutions to make sure that your business is set up in the right way with that metering technology, it gives your own business the credentials to say that I've made a change here. I'm acting and making sure that my business represents the best it can in terms of a green sustainable strategy. So it's a really good message for your own business to portray to the rest of the industry and your customer base. I'm serious about this, and this is the first stepping stone I'm going to do, towards green.
Okay, and then Kostas, complementing what Tom said there, what type of measures from technology to process can companies look at to help themselves?
Right. So I should also start by saying that smart is the absolute enabler. Without good data, it's very, very difficult then to design any other measures going forward. So in terms of the options that businesses have, really you can think of it as kind of two main categories: saving energy or making sure that you use energy as efficiently as possible, and the other one is obviously generating clean electricity and heat as much as possible. So measures such as solar PV and batteries, heat pumps, controls, LED lighting, as well as now obviously EV charging infrastructure, absolutely at the forefront of decision makers' minds. As Tom mentioned, there's now a very clear and very strong trend towards the electrification of heating and transport. That brings both benefits and challenges, and challenges which are not always easily solvable, we have to say. Good example is replacing gas boilers with heat pumps in old buildings, which is something which is not always a straightforward exercise and requires quite a lot of careful design in order to be done properly. I guess one other thing to say is that having a plan for decarbonisation is key. The plan should start with smart, with accurate and good data. It's important then to think of the overall benefits of investing into zero carbon infrastructure. Quite often, and it's natural, people are thinking about savings on the bills. That's the first thing, understandable. But there are other cascading benefits, if you like, from those technologies. Example is an EV charger will bring probably no energy savings into an organization, but it will enable more electric vehicles, and it will help them to reduce the emissions of particulates, which obviously that leads to healthier cities. Not to mention the obvious carbon savings from avoiding the use of petrol and diesel. Another example is insulation, insulating the fabric of buildings. That absolutely has no attractive energy payback. We're talking about paybacks of 20, 30, 40 years sometimes, but it does bring additional benefits in terms of noise reduction and improving comfort for occupants. So it's important to see things holistically, if we can, taking a whole systems approach, which is always cheaper and more efficient than just doing things piecemeal. I should say, you know, we all do that. We always try to focus on quick wins, and sometimes quick wins in our discussion in this situation is something that we can achieve. But if organizations, if businesses can afford to take a bit of time to put together a good plan, start with good data, with smart enablement, then everything else will flow much more efficiently after that.
Now, Eunice, your part of the business very recently had a very significant success. You have gone through a competitive tender process, and you're now supplying data services to 10,000 business energy customers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what that opportunity presents?
No, absolutely. Yeah, so as you said, we were accredited by Alexon on data collection and data aggregation services. So this is where we're taking the consumption data from half-hourly meters, and in the future that will be smart meters too. We're putting that through the balancing and settlement code, so suppliers, ourselves and others, can then bill against that consumption. So it's been out there. It's obviously quite a dry subject, but for me, it's really exciting. You know, the fact that you can get the data from source rather than going through the houses. So as you can imagine, that data is the process to bill, and then it can go to another company and another company through various A&T packages. So it's like manhandled quite a few times. But obviously what we're trying to do is give customers that data from source, so it's accurate. We're looking at that data to try and make the non-smart stuff as accurate as we possibly can. And then how we can align that to things. So obviously we've got our renewable energy, which is fantastic. And we mentioned about how we're mapping that to customers' demand. But the DCDA gives the opportunity to do that at a 30-minute level. So how do we match renewable generation to customer demand over a more granular period? So it enables us to sort of like look at things like that, to really spearhead everyone's journey to net zero.
And I think it was also on the back of that, Eunice, the other thing we have to remember as well when we get access to this data, particularly through smart metering as well, is ability to manage this on the move as well. I mean, we're a fast-moving society now. You know, things don't wait around. We're in different places on, you know, different online aspects and locations, and having, you know, the ability to log into Clarity and, you know, have that mobile ability to manage your energy portfolio on the move. You know, that goes hand in hand with, you know, being clever about your sustainability and clever about your green credentials. Certainly adds a different perspective to it as well.
Definitely. I know FM and engineers will use that for condition-based maintenance. So you're right, there's lots of applications that we can use that data, whether that's just from an information purposes, from a reporting purposes, or actually engineers using it for, like I said, condition-based maintenance or predictive maintenance with our machine learning models and everything.
Okay. Guys, we're coming near the end of our time. So I had one final question that I wanted to put to you. Hopefully, as our viewers watch back our session here, they will be left in no doubt of the enthusiasm as SSE employees we have about tackling climate change, about decarbonisation, about helping customers on their journey to net zero. But one of the things I find quite interesting is as people go back to their day-to-day lives, as they go back into the workplace, as restrictions ease and so on, is there the risk that people are going to slip back into, or companies are going to slip back into old habits? So the question is, how do we maintain the focus on sustainability as people go back to their day-to-day work lives?
I think definitely you notice that customer attitudes changing, and certainly the media is definitely picking that theme up as well. And not considering sustainability is no longer an option for our businesses. Before committing, consumers will judge, assess, and pay more attention to how businesses are acting and doing their bit to drive sustainability, or to achieving net zero and making the most of access to clean backed 100% renewable energy. So I think going smart, making sure that you're able to make that transition to all the things that are available to you through what Kostas has mentioned, and all the tools that you can have from analyzing the data that Eunice has mentioned. These things really help businesses prove to their consumer base that they're heading in the right direction. Going backwards is no longer an option, and you're going to be going against the wave if that is the case. We're all moving and paying close attention to try and decarbonize, and we need to support our customers achieve that goal.
The climate crisis is not a national thing anymore. We saw what happened in Canada a few weeks ago with the heat waves. We're seeing what's the tragic situation in Germany at the moment with the floods. These are all linked to climate change and the climate crisis. No one can afford not to take action going forward. Businesses, organizations, everyone needs to both reduce significantly carbon emissions and also adapt to a new climate situation. So this is not going away. And we all need to make even stronger efforts to address all those points that we've discussed.
And Eunice, if I tip the question ever so slightly differently, as an employee of a business, as we come out of the pandemic and we talk about the importance of climate change, what does it mean to you personally?
I think it's great the way that SSE has this commitment to net zero. It's amazing, and I feel proud to work for SSE for that we're doing. I know we're committed to helping our customers, no matter what size they are, we can help them on that journey. I think using the lessons from COVID means that we can really, although tragic that was, a lot of people have been switching things off and using less energy. So we really need to use that as a springboard. Traditionally, we would look at, say, Christmas Day as our lowest consumption point. But are people looking at Christmas Day compared to a COVID day? Was there any difference? Did COVID, was it less or was it more than Christmas Day? We need to start sort of reflecting and taking stock and getting some lessons learned out of that to help us go forward. And this is what we're hoping to do with our customers and internally as well. And not forgetting things like behavioural change, embedding behavioural change into companies. And I know that's something that we're doing within SSE, and we're all doing a carbon pledge. Those things can make a huge difference globally. So we all need to pull together like we did for the pandemic to make sure that we can all get to net zero and get those climate change reductions that we need to.
Eunice, Kostas, Tom, thank you very much for your time today. That was incredibly insightful. I think we've really heard how data and data capture and analysis can really help business to understand what they can do. We've heard about SSE's renewable backed energy supply coming from traceable back to asset, traceable back to source, combined with what smart meters can do for companies, and then also within their businesses themselves, the type of investments they can make to reduce their energy consumption. Thank you for your time and your contribution. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
All right, stay safe, everyone.
Thank you all.